This is Spam Jam Podcast by First Line Software.
Welcome to Spam Jam, powered by First Line Software, and today we have a special episode of Ethical AI and QA, and we are joined by our senior QA consultant, Edgar. Hi, Edgar, how are you?
Hello, hi, Dmitry. It's a pleasure to be here. As you mentioned, I'm a senior QA engineer, and really excited to be here.
Nice. So let's dive in, shall we, Edgar? So AI nowadays is everywhere, and there is a lot of talk about bias and fairness. Can you please explain what is bias in AI actually means?
Sure, yeah. So bias in AI happens when an algorithm produces, let's say, results that are systematically prejudiced, that by prejudice meaning that they are wrongly targeting or wrongly producing erroneous, let's say, assumptions due to the, let's say, trained data that the AI and the algorithm has been trained on, and this happened within the machine learning process. So as I mentioned, it all origins from the data that the AI is trained on. So if it's fed and if it's trained on assumed data or data that is biased, that is wrongfully targeting certain groups or certain genders, for example, just to name a few, then it will be producing as well then wrong bias in this case.
Okay, that sounds pretty serious, and I read that biases in AI can really affect people's lives and in unexpected ways. So how do we identify and mitigate these biases in AI models? I bet there is a lot of techniques and strategies involved. There absolutely there are. I think that nowadays that AI is more and more part of our lives. It's kind of everywhere as well now. I think it's an important, let's say, thing to have in mind for companies, for developers, for teams that are developing AI algorithms and machine learning processes, to have these, let's say, steps, which I would say one of the first steps is to have, let's say, bias audit. So to regularly perform auditing or conducting auditing on their algorithms. So basically, as I was saying before, examining what is the data that the AI, the model has been trained on. So let's say comparing and seeing what type of data it's being done there, it's essential. And as well, that's I think one of the important parts as well on the testing of the models and on the QA part. It's important as well to have this in mind. There are as well techniques that are used, or other techniques apart from this, such as the resampling of the data or reweighting, so rebalancing basically the data if just to see if the results change as well. So as, let's say, new models and new modifications for these AI models are changed, are deployed, it's important to have these processes in mind. So I heard about some fairness metrics, but it sounds quite complex. Maybe you could give us an example of technique used for bias detection.
Yeah, certainly. I think one of the most commonly used techniques that our companies are, let's say, implementing or doing is one. It's called the disparate impact analysis. Let's say it's kind of a process or method where they are you compare the outcomes on the different, let's say, demographics or the different groups within your data. So I don't know, for example, if there are
are developing an AI model that is for HR purposes or hiring people. To name an example, you would compare the different selection rates between the different genders, men, women, or the different ethnic groups. If it's Hispanic, if it's Slavic, if it's to put an example, no? And then as well, within this process, you compare if one group is being more favored than the other. So there you can see if there would be a potential bias as well. Then another technique that is used as well is called the counterfactual fairness. So there as well, you can simulate changes within the different attributes, like I was mentioning before, for example, the gender or the race or any other, let's say, sensitive attribute, and then keeping everything else the same, everything else constant, and then to see if the model and the algorithm's predictions will be changing. And then if they do, then it means as well there you can identify some potential bias that needs to be, let's say, corrected, or something within your data that needs to be resampled or reweighted.
That makes sense, and ensuring fairness seems like continuous process. And how do we make sure algorithms are making fair decisions? And it seems like a huge responsibility.
Yeah, I think you're right, and that's a good question. It is a significant responsibility. I think it all starts with defining what is fair, or what is fairness in general. I guess it will depend on, let's say, use case by use case, meaning that when you have an AI model that is, to put the example I used before, for hiring, what is fair there might not be the same for an AI model that is used for finance or that is used for education. So it's, let's say, depending on as well what the algorithm and what the AI model will be used for. Then the first step is to identify what fairness means in that context, specific context. And then additionally, I think it's important as well to involve all the stakeholders. So as well, making sure that everything aligns from what the stakeholders want, what the business wants. So not only from a technical perspective for it to be fair, but as well for a business perspective to be as well aligned.
Yeah, I think diversity is crucial here, and I believe that having diverse team can really help catch biases that might otherwise be overlooked. And speaking of diverse teams, how does the makeup of team influence the development of fair AI?
Yeah, well, I think that's a good point. I think the diversity of a team plays crucial, I think, role in the development of a fair AI model. Let's say when you have people from different backgrounds, different cultures, places, life experiences in general, working together, I think they bring a big variety of perspective that can help them to identify those biases more than let's say just a normal team or people that are from the similar background, similar culture, similar place. So as well, I think these type of diverse teams can more faster and easily question and challenge the assumptions that the AI would make. So I think these inputs are good for a team and for a company that is developing AI, and for it to be a fair AI model.
Okay, like it really highlights the human element in all of this, doesn't it? Biased data leading to like biased outcomes, and it sounds like a major issue. Edgar, what impact does biased data have on AI outcomes? This must be a huge concern for anyone working with AI.
It certainly is. I think it's quite big to think think the real world consequences. Think biased data has a very profound impact with very very serious. So if the AI, like we talked about at the beginning, is trained with biased data, then it will learn and it will replicate, let's say, those bias in its predictions, in its results, in the decisions that it makes. So to put examples, let's say from law enforcement model that can happen, let's say with facial recognition that might have been trained with wrong data. It can target, let's say, the wrong group of people or the wrong ethnic groups, and targeting specific groups. Or to put another example, it would be more on the finance side of things. So if it's a finance AI model, let's say the decisions that it would be making for not, let's say, providing lending options, for not providing, let's say, banking products to certain socioeconomic groups, so people, let's say, with lesser or from different backgrounds as well, is something that I think nowadays could potentially happen.
Okay. Concerning what steps can organization take to address this issue? Like, I'm pretty sure there is some practices that can make a big difference.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, starting with one of the things would be establishing what fairness is, and having the whole company know what that means for the model, as we talked before. I think organizations need to be proactive in addressing the biases in AI, in identifying them. So I think as well an important point that organizations can make is prioritizing the diversity of the data. So the more diverse the data they have, and the more diverse their data collection processes are, then they can ensure that all the different groups are, let's say, represented, taken into account, and that the AI is trained in a well-represented data collection processes. And then the second part is having, as I mentioned, we talked about as well before, about having regular AI audit and bias audit. So checking the data and what type of data it's been trained. Then as well, another, I think, on a third part, I think can be as well having an open and transparent, let's say, AI development process, so that anyone can, let's say, challenge or bring up, question any of the decisions or the assumptions that the model is making. So I think as well, the more transparent and the more clear the process is for everyone, the better is as well.
It sounds like a lot of effort, but clearly worth it. Staying ethical in AI is so important for building trust. Before we wrap up, any final thoughts or suggestions for our listeners who are interested in ethical AI?
Sure, yeah. I think my final thought would be that ethical AI isn't just, let's say, a technical challenge or a technical aspect, or not to focus only on the technical side, but that is a societal challenge as well. So as we continue to integrate AI and have AI more into all the aspects of our lives, I think it's important that we remain vigilant and that we think and challenge as well the different ethical implications that AI brings into our lives. So as well, for those that might be interested as well in the AI and in the topic as well, not to only focus on the technical aspect of things, but in more as well on the ethical debates that will present, and to stay as well informed on the different, because I think as well as
it's a area, a very fast-moving topic about the AI as nowadays it's been more and more developed. So as well, we need to keep up with the ethics side of things that it brings us. So yeah.
That is the end for today's Spam Jam episode, and if you enjoyed it, please don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your friends. See you next time.
This is Spam Jam Podcast by First Line Software.